Hello, this is Dr. Ritamarie Loscalzo, and in today's video we are going to talk about the top 3 foods you should avoid at all costs. I know you hear all these food rules and you shouldn't eat this and you shouldn't eat that, and the list can be enormous, but I'm going to give you 3 to start with that you really should avoid at all costs, and I'm going to tell you in my usual fashion exactly why. So I believe if you understand the why, you're going to be much more likely to do it. So the very first one that tops my list is margarine. Hear that? Margarine. Margarine, typical margarine, contains hydrogenated oil, partially hydrogenated soybean oil typically. And I'm going to expand that to include anything that has hydrogenated oil. Margarine's a biggie because it's pure hydrogenated oil. There's nothing else even in it. It's just hydrogenated oil. So what's the big hullabaloo about hydrogenated oil? Well, what they've figured out few decades ago, was that they really liked the way things were solid at room temperature, like butter. It's solid at room temperature, and if you want to put some on your toast, you slice a bit off and then it melts. It's really nice. And there was some research saying that butter wasn't good for you, so they wanted to try to find an alternative. What they discovered was that if they hydrogenate, they add extra hydrogen to the oil, that it artificially causes it to become similar to a saturated fat that's solid at room temperature. So when they did that, voila, the birth of margarine and Crisco, and then they discovered all kinds of great things they could put this stuff in because it didn't melt. So what's the problem with it? Well, I could begin and go on for days, but I will keep it short and simple. One of the problems is when you hydrogenate an oil, you're basically taking an oil, that long string of carbon, hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen, carbon, hydrogen, and in an unsaturated fat, not all the bonds with the carbon in the middle are filled with hydrogen. There's some of them that are empty. Okay? And depending on the number of them that are empty determines which type of oil it is. Saturated fats have all those bonds filled. So in a polyunsaturated fat, there's multiple bonds that are unfilled. And it's liquid at room temperature. It doesn't hold together. When you add the hydrogen to that mixture, that's the word hydrogenation, it adds it, but it adds it in a way that's different from the way saturated fat molecules in nature look. In nature, saturated fat molecules are in what's called the cis form. It's kind of a straight line form. When you artificially hydrogenated oil, it puts a bend, a kink in the oil. And our bodies don't recognize that as normal. It's like, what is this stuff? What we found in doing this is that hydrogenated oils are trans fats, and there are other ways to create trans fats as well. Trans fats can cause damage to your blood vessel linings. They actually irritate and cause them to be damaged. And then once they get damaged, there's some inflammation that sets up there, and it's a great place for cholesterol to go and attach to. The other thing that hydrogenated oils do is they can alter the DNA and set you up for cancer. They can create cancer. So when you eat these hydrogenated fats, you're putting yourself at risk for cancer and heart disease, the number 1 and the number 2 killers in the U.S. And cancer is coming really close to heart disease as being, they're going to be neck and neck any day now. And that's scary. These are really serious conditions, and hydrogenated oils contribute to that. I said before that you can hydrogenate oils in other ways. Just by heating certain fats up to a temperature of above 118 degrees, you cause what's called fatty acid oxidation, and it changes the shape and creates trans fats as well. And most people don't realize that. They think that if you didn't add the hydrogenated oil to the food, that the food is trans fat free, and that's actually a misnomer. The other thing that these fats do is they disrupt your body's ability to create anti-inflammatory chemicals. There's a whole process where the fats get converted down to these anti-inflammatory chemicals, and trans fats actually interrupt the conversion from the foods you eat into these chemicals your body needs that are anti-inflammatory. So you can set yourself up for heart disease, you can set yourself up for cancer, but you can also set yourself up for irritating things like arthritis, fibromyalgia, things that are itises, anything that ends in an itis is inflammatory, can be exacerbated by eating these artificially processed foods. So margarine, throw it away. If you have any in your house, dump it. It's not better than butter. That's a whole myth. It's an artificial food. Nobody should ever eat it. Same thing with hydrogenated fat. So read your labels. If you're buying a cracker and it says made with partially hydrogenated soybean oil, don't buy it. So the second food that I'd like to talk about that you should avoid at all costs, soft drinks. So why soft drinks? You know, what is that? It's just kind of sugar water. Why are they so bad? Well, there's two different types of soft drinks, right? There's the diet kind, and then there's the regular kind. The regular kind, generally sweetened with high fructose corn syrup. There's a few that are sweetened with sugar or cane syrup, but most of them are sweetened with high fructose corn syrup. Sugar is sugar in a lot of ways, in that sugar creates lots of disruption to your immune system. It affects your insulin receptors. It can cause you to put on belly fat. We'll talk about that even more when we talk about our insulin handling in our insulin handling video. But as far as the high fructose corn syrup, in addition to all the negative effects of sugar, which is disrupting your B vitamins, affecting your hormones, affecting your neurotransmitters. In addition, the high fructose corn syrup gets metabolized differently than sugar does. Sugar requires insulin to get it into the cells. People claim, oh, but high fructose corn syrup, it's great, it doesn't require insulin to get into your cells, so you don't run the risk of getting diabetes. Well, you trade it off, because the high fructose corn syrup has to be metabolized by the liver. And what happens when you eat too much of this stuff, which is what everybody does if they eat any of it, because soft drinks in and of themselves, you drink 2 or 3 of those a day, you're getting way too much high fructose corn syrup. Well, it affects the liver in such a way that it causes fatty liver. Is that fun? Fatty liver, does that sound like fun? No, your liver's a really important organ. Your liver produces bile so you can digest your fat. Your liver detoxifies your environment. Fatty liver, not good. So in addition to all the negative effects of sugar per se, which we'll talk about in another video, high fructose corn syrup is the double whammy of it. It can affect your liver and cause fatty liver. And then the third food that's on my top 3 hit list is white bread. Now, I'm not a big fan of bread in any case. Let's just get that clear at the front. But white bread is the most useless food you want to eat. White bread is basically, they take wheat, they strip away all of the bran and the germ, which contains the B vitamins, the vitamin E, all the good stuff, all the minerals. They strip it away. And then they, in their infinite wisdom of trying to fortify it, slap back in 5 nutrients out of the 20-something that they took away. So you take a food, you take away 20 nutrients, you put back 5. Where's the common sense to that? Doesn't make sense. They do it so that the bread is lighter and it rises. And you know, if you get white bread, you can roll it up in a ball because of all the gluten in it. It concentrates the gluten. We'll do another whole video on the problems with gluten. And it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, the problems with gluten. So in addition to the white bread having all of its nutrients stripped away, the B vitamins have been stripped away, it's left with just pure white flour. It's treated by your body the same way as sugar. When we look at and do insulin studies and glycemic studies, how quickly it raises your blood sugars, it's the same as white sugar, and it has gluten in it. And gluten has a whole bunch of problems in regard to autoimmune situations, gut problems, schizophrenia, you name it, gluten's been associated with it. And like I said, we'll get way more into that in another video. So white bread, useless food, puts a lot of strain on your body, pulls away your B vitamins, and it does not do a body good. So the 3 top foods that you should avoid at all costs: margarine, soft drinks, and white bread. And I forgot to mention that even those so-called good for you diet soft drinks, because they don't have all the 5 fructose corn syrup, are sweetened with aspartame. And aspartame has been attributed to all sorts of neurological problems, including headaches, MS, and a whole host. And there's tons of research if you do some Google searches on that. So you shouldn't be taking aspartame at all. So that's it for today. I hope you got some good value out of that, and look for more videos where we'll go into a lot more detail on these various topics. Thank you.